Welcome to another Lives Hogs vlog, or should I say, I better get my glasses on and say Hoggout. Remember, we've got this new show going on and I'm really enjoying it because we had Austin on as a fan last week and we've got a new fan this week with some exciting questions as well. He's really going to challenge me. We're going to have a quick chat about the West Indies beating Australia in the T20 last night, or the other night, and we're going to have a look at the England versus India third test out Rajkot. There's a few things that we want to discuss there. So let's roll bumper and get right into the show. Now, just before we get the Indian squad up there, I just want to have a quick comment about the West Indies taking on Australia last night. The West Indies thumped Australia in the final T20 of the series between both countries. West Indies are going home with another victory. They beat Australia in the second test match and the final T20. So that will be good for the Caribbean team. Andre Russell absolutely dominated Australia and belted Adam Zampa out of the stadium, out Optus Stadium. Adam Zampa became the bowler with the worst figures in Australia, 65 off his bowling. But he's one of the great right-arm leg spinners in the short formats that we've ever had. And sometimes those occasions happen. And last night, it was the West Indies that dealt the blow. So it's not a record that Adam Zampa would like to have, but he's got plenty of accomplishments over his lifetime. The other guy that I really enjoyed last night was Rutherford. The way that he complimented Andre Russell. Andre Russell dominated when he came out. Rutherford was finding it hard to find his touch early on. But when Russell started to be quiet, Rutherford really dominated and changed the face of the game. And remember, the West Indies were 3 for about 30 at one stage, or 3 for 17, should I say, before the third over. Roston Chase, coming back into the team, made a brilliant 37 and was just hitting perfect cricket shots. But also when he bowled his right-arm off-spin, he bowled conventional right-arm off-spin, got the big wicket of David Warner that turned the game and made it an easy victory for the West Indies at the end. The West Indies looked as though they could be a dark horse in the World Cup coming up later on the year when it's played in the Caribbean as well as America. So watch out for the Caribbean team. And the West Indies there, if the selectors are looking, I think that you could get Roston Chase up there opening the batting. I just thought he will offer a little bit more for you up there. Hopefully, it will allow the West Indies not to lose as many wickets up front and not put as much pressure on that lower order. But the big game, let's get into it. The test match between India and England. Now, let's get up and get that squad up. If you've got their Aria, beautiful. Now, that's the Indian squad. Is it going to be Padikkal that comes in, or is it going to be Sarfraz Khan that gets an opportunity? I think that they are going to go with Padikkal. I will get a quote up from Padikkal here. He made 100 against Tamil Nadu the other day. It was a brilliant innings. And he's got the quote there that, yes, when he first came in, he was a genuine opener, but all of a sudden he's been batting in different positions, and we've seen that in the IPL. And the coach, Rahul Dravid, is a big one for top order batsmen. Don't think yourself as just a one-trick pony. That means you're just not an opener. You're just not a number 3. You've got to be able to bat in different positions. And that's what Padikkal does. I's not there. He's having a few problems with his back again, and I don't think the Indian selectors want to risk him. I don't think that he's being dropped. I think it's more of a concern with the back injury. And I think this is an opportunity to put another left-handed bat in the middle order, and I think Padikkal might bat in front of Sarfraz Khan. And the other reason for that, England might be thinking about playing Wood alongside Anderson, just in case the pitch out Rajkot is flat and they need that extra pace. And I don't think Sarfraz Khan, should I say, can handle the pace as good as Padikkal. So watch out for that space. I think India have got the better balance. I know that Jadeja, this is his home ground, but he's got a hamstring issue. And if it's a flat deck and there's a potential to bowl for a long period of time, that's a day, day and a half. Is it worth risking playing Jadeja after he's coming back from a leg injury from the previous game? And he's been having a couple of injuries over the last couple of years. I know he's a spinner. He's also a batter, great fielder. You've still got to manage his workload because you don't want to lose him before the T20 World Cup in the middle of this year. And when I say that, he's got plenty of time to recover, but you want to get him to have those games in the IPL to get his form under his belt. All right. Aria, let's get the first question on the road that we got last week that we didn't quite answer. Raveen Danapalan. I hope I got that right. If I haven't, have a bit of a laugh. Hoggy, what's your take on Shreyas Iyer's batting failure? Will you replace him with Sarfraz for the factor in the next match, or for the X factor in the next match? Look, I'd love to get Sarfraz Khan in there as the X factor for this particular match. I want to see what he can do, what he can offer. But as I just said before, I think Padikkal against Wood, there's a huge potential that England are going to play Wood in this test match because of the wicket being flat. I think Padikkal has got the better armoury against that particular bowler. So watch his space. You just don't want one particular bowler in the opposition to have the wood over a particular player. We've seen Sarfraz Khan in IPL cricket really have a few troubles against that extra pace. So that's one little weakness. But if he's been working on it, and Rahul Dravid has been having him in the nets, and he's been facing Boomerang and handling Boomerang quite well, then I'd go with Sarfraz Khan. But from what I've seen, outside of the little bubble there, I would go with Padikkal. And I know I'm being hard on Sarfraz Khan there, but I just love I love what Padikkal's got to offer. And you've got another left-handed top order batsman in your batting order, which makes a huge difference because England have got a variety of spinners as well. So you can have that left-hand, right-arm combination working together to have to try and get that one particular batsman facing as much spin as possible with the ball turning into him. So there's all those sort of matchups that you want to look at as well. Next question there, Aria, please, before we get the special guest on. And I can't wait to speak to the young man. Oh, okay. I don't know who Cheryl Breslin Hogg is, but I think that might be my wife. Okay. You're very handsome, Mr. Hogg. Thanks very much, Cheryl. Yes, I would like a cup of tea. Can you bring that in? Because I'm going to be here for another 45 minutes talking to our special guest. Gee whiz, the things that we get on the live, okay? That is brilliant. Okay, next question there, Aria. Let's get this up, please. Shreyas Hedge. There's a lot of money in cricket nowadays as opposed to the 80s and 90s. What impact do you think it has on young aspiring cricketers of today? I think it creates a lot more pressure on young aspiring cricketers of today because all of a sudden, I go back to my time. I always wanted to play cricket as a youngster. But now with money coming into it, all of a sudden you're not thinking of other careers to support yourself. Remember that sport, you only have a short career. And when you look at IPL auctions, when you look at the likes of Steve Smith, David Warner, Pat Cummins, Mitchell Stark, and then you've got your Rohit Sharmas, Virat Kohli. Yes, they've got all the big money. You're thinking, right, that's the life that I want to live. That's the limelight. But you've got to remember, if you look through the IPL auction list, there's only a small percentage of players that get the big money. There's 50% or more under the medium IPL money that you actually get. So there's a lot of players that are getting small amounts of money that aren't going to set them up for life. So these are the things that young aspiring cricketers have to look at. Right, if I'm not in that top echelon, I've got to give it the best I possibly can, but I've got to make sure that I just have something in the background to be able to support myself when my cricket career finishes. That's one thing that young cricketers of today have to look at. But the other thing is too, I'll share this with you, Shreyas. When I first started playing, we didn't have contracts. We got paid per game that we played. That was in first class cricket and for Australia. So we weren't guaranteed an income throughout the year. So when it came to the winter break, we had to find other jobs to support ourselves. And we even had to find other jobs through the cricket season to support ourselves because that money wasn't enough to support our families. And when contracts did come in, it upset the team balance there for a while. And all of a sudden, players became a little bit greedy, a little bit selfish. And you can't deny that that's never going to happen because there's a change of dynamic. All of a sudden, players are sitting there going, I can look after my family by just playing cricket. I don't have to go and work. So all of a sudden, that greed is going to come in. That selfishness is going to come in. And it took us here in Western Australia and Australia at least 5 to 10 years to get the right balance to be able to separate the money from playing together as a team and making sure you put team first. So, Shreyas, that is a great question, and I hope I answered it for you. But young cricketers out there, you give it your best shot, but make sure you've got other interests behind you, because when you travel the world, those interests will allow you to create a different conversation with the people that you're going to meet outside of cricket in the business world. But also it will give you an opportunity to move into something outside of cricket when you finish. You might be able to go into an administrative role like some of the cricketers are and work for the ICC or for the BCCI, or you might be able to go into coaching roles or do something completely different and go into IT, like my next guest, Gaurav, who's in IT, and he's moved from up north of India and gone to Bangalore to pursue his career in IT. Gaurav, how are you going?
Going good, going good. Thanks for having me. It's a really, thankful to you. I mean, for giving the opportunity for a fan like me, to speak to you. It's a grateful grateful to you. I mean, yeah, thanks a lot for
Well, thank you
this
very much. We had
opportunity.
young Austin the other day, who
Yeah,
also
yeah,
lives in Bangalore and goes for the
yeah.
RCB. And I told you it was only going to be 5 minutes. And how much did I waffle on there and made you wait for 11 minutes in the background there? Sorry about that.
No,
But
no problem.
let's get into the questions first that
Yeah,
you want to ask me. And when we go to other people's questions, I'm going to get your input in there too, Gaurav. So
yeah,
your
yeah.
first question to me, please.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, to kick off, right? So I just wanted to pick your brains and kind of understand your thought process. You know, like how's is the childhood for any cricketer? And the reason why I'm putting up this question, because we as a fan at times can get a bit aggressive on the cricketers when they fail, right? And we don't see the number of years of struggles they have put in to reach that level, right? So I just wanted to understand, like for a professional, right, how is the childhood and at what time in their career, right? So let's say someone is 14, 15 and they want to pursue cricket as a career over the next, let's say, a decade or so. So at what time they take that call, and like how is that decision driven? In your case, how was the case, right?
Mate, look, I had a lot of anxiety and insecurity throughout my whole life pursuing the game of cricket
Hmm.
from a very young age. Um, my grandparents, my parents say that when I was crawling, I had a bat and ball in my hand, and I wanted to play
Hmm.
cricket from that age. I can remember Australia playing the West Indies back in the 70s. They had the likes of
Yeah.
Michael Holding,
Oh,
Andy Roberts, Joel Garner, Malcolm Marshall. So we all know Michael Holding from the
yeah.
commentary
Yeah.
over in Sky
What a great
Sports over
side.
in England.
Yeah.
So those guys used to dominate Australia. And I used to watch the test match. I didn't want to play for Australia because Australia were winning. I wanted to play for Australia because I wanted to save them. I wanted to turn the losing culture around from against the West Indies into a winning culture. I wanted to find
Yeah.
those ways. So that's where it got ingrained. My dad was a really good cricketer back here in the country, over in Australia, in Western Australia.
Mhm.
He actually played against India and played
Oh,
against
yeah.
Bish and Beatty when I was
Wow.
5. It was West Australian Country 11 against India. I've got a photo of Bish and Beatty when I was 5 years old. He had the
Yeah.
turban on, and
Yep. Yep.
so
Yep.
the turban. And I wasn't worldly. I didn't know anything about the world, and just
Mhm.
with the heat over here in Australia, and being the complexion that we are, we've got to wear a hat. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
said something like this to Bish and Beatty. I said, "Oh, Mr. Beatty, that hat's not going to protect you here in Australia. So that's when I found out that there's different religions around the world as well. But I always wanted to play during school. Every minute I had, I played cricket. But I never represented my state in any junior cricket. So at the age of 22, I still thought, right, there's a chance. But at the end of the season in 1992-93 here in Perth, where we played grade cricket, where they picked the first class team, I didn't get picked. And I thought, right, that's it. So I thought I'd go back to the farm and work on the family farm here. And during that winter, I got a letter that I'm in the Colt squad, and Mum and Dad sat down with me and said, right, where do you want to go? I said, oh, look, I don't know. I don't think I'm good enough. And Mum, who was a really good sports woman as well, said, what about go out to Perth, give it one more go, one more crack, and see where this squad takes you. And I'm glad I did, because by the end of 1993, start of 94, I got picked in the Shield squad here in Perth. And then I played as a batter. I didn't bowl any leg spin up until then. And my first Shield game, I got asked to bowl leg spin in the nets. 2 years later, I played against India in Delhi in my first test match in 1996. But a lot of other kids go through and they're playing in the Under-19 World Cup right now. I wasn't ever picked in that. I'd go to trial matches and so forth, but I'd never get picked in those squads. And it was really hard for me. But I was lucky. I had something to fall back onto, and that was going back to the farm. And then when I actually did make it, the stress that I had was, I'm not making any money out of it. What am I going to do to support myself and my family while I'm playing cricket? So I went and studied accounting and marketing. So, it's not that easy. It's really tough. It was tough for me. I was working 9 to 5 jobs. Every spare minute I had, I was training. I'd get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock and go for my runs. If at lunchtime, I'd try and get someone to play tennis ball cricket with me out the back, where I could work on my skills and just get that extra net session in. So I was always trying to find ways to improve my game. And that was a tough road for me. It's a really good question. And when I look at it, I look at a lot of kids here. We've got a lot of young kids here from India that are pursuing that game of cricket. But by the time they're 14, 15, if they look as though they're not meeting or going to meet that expectations of a first-class cricketer, they're going into other studies. And they're looking at engineering, IT, and being a doctor. And that's smart. But while you're studying that, still pursue your cricket, because you don't know when it's going to turn around. And cricket keeps you involved with society and with your mates. So you still get that relaxation and that break away from what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Did I answer that? Did I answer that well enough for you?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
So moving on, I mean, did you have any questions from the fans, or can I move on to the next one?
Keep going.
Yeah, okay. So basically, you answered that pretty well, and I think once you get your first opportunity, it's a rush of emotions and whatnot. I mean, basically, right? But then at the same time, you know that, okay, this is my first chance, and possibly in most of the cases that is, as it has happened, it could be your last also, right? You can't be picked in the next game, right? So what goes through the mind? And for instance, right, like you were picked in the side in 1996, as you mentioned, but to be the consistent member of the side, you were there from 2003 or 2003 onwards, right? So during that space of 5 to 6 years, what goes into the backstage? Because as a fan, we don't see that, right? We don't get to see that, how much struggle a professional cricketer is putting in, how much effort he or she is putting in at the backstage to get picked into the side again as a regular member of the squad. So if you can throw some light on those years, I think that's where a cricketer is made. But I would like to hear it from you.
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone else. We've got different personalities as well. I was probably, are we there yet? What's happened here? what's happened here. Just make sure what's happened. Aria, am I still online? Can you just speak in there? I heard something. Something's happened with my computer. Yep, I'm still on.
Absolutely, you
Is
are.
the video still coming through?
Producer's voice here. Yeah.
Here we go. Sorry, lads.
Okay.
Hopefully it's all going. I'll keep continuing with that because hopefully in the background, this is still going. Gaurav, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
There we go. Yep, I'm in. Yeah, I'm in the show. Something happened to my computer there. I'm not technically savvy, so Gaurav, it's lucky that you're still on here with me, and you can help me out with this. And I'm on the blank there. So going back there, we've all got different personalities, and I was very lucky that the players accepted my personality. So I was a bit of a mozzie. You could probably say that I had ADHD, if you understand what that term is. You understand what ADHD is? Attention deficit disorder, in a sense, because all I was thinking about was training. What could I do for cricket? And I'd miss other meetings and other functions out. Sometimes I'll be late for those other functions because all my focus was hyper focused on cricket. Whereas other players, had a different mindset and were able to adapt to those things. So it's different for everyone else. I overtrained, but I felt that I had to overtrain or do that extra work because I wasn't as good as the other players. When I got back in the team, actually, I'll go back to 1996. I got picked in the team there in 1996 for Australia. Came back to my state team. And I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought, right, yeah, I've played for Australia. I should be picked straight away for my WA team as well. And I became selfish through that particular period because I'd got my baggy green and I wanted more of it. So I sort of lost touch with what I could do with WA cricket. I got dropped there for a while, and that was the best lesson for me because it made me get grounded and go back to my grassroots and be the person that I normally am, and that's trying to be a team man. So when I got back into that state team and the Australian team eventually, I just tried to do what I could for the team, and one of that was training hard to make sure my skills were as best they possibly can to help my teammates out. But when it came into the field and the change rooms, I was a bit of they call me a bit of a pest, but I was always trying to make a bit of humour and have a bit of fun with the players as well. And sometimes that could get annoying. And it was really good that we had players in there that accepted me for who they are, but we had that respect for each other where we could share what we're feeling at the time. So if someone said, "Hoggy, you're annoying me now. You're over energetic," I'd go and find another space to be. So I wasn't annoying that particular player. So we really got on there in that aspect. Just trying to find your way in that team initially was really hard for me because Shane Warne, I was filling in Shane Warne's shoes for the all of a sudden. And I kicked him out of the one-day team, and all of a sudden, I've kicked Shane Warne out of the one-day team, and all of a sudden there's that extra pressure. But I must admit, when it came contract time, because I had family to look after as well, about a month before contract time, that was the moment. That was the time which really affected me, because all of a sudden, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the contract. I'm not thinking about playing, and my mind's distracted, and that really affected me. And it came to a stage where management would come up and say, "Hoggy, you've got another contract next year. Don't worry about it." And that took my mind away from it. So it's understanding those personalities, but it's really tough. And when I was in that Australian team, you had the likes of McGrath, Gilchrist, Ponting, Damien Martin, Matthew Hayden, Brett Lee, Andy Bickle, and there was no Shane Warne there as well. Yeah, but I saw myself as a weak link.
To be honest, that side gave us nightmares, to be honest, and then to every opposition that we against.
Yeah, and it was, and I saw myself as a weak link in the team. And so how I'd plan is go, right, well, we're up against India. if I can control Sachin Tendulkar, who was regarded as the best batsman in your team at that stage,
Yeah.
then that will put a little bit of pressure on the rest of the batting lineup, hopefully, that, all right, this guy's not going to be as easy as we thought. But it didn't really happen out like that, because the likes of VVS Laxman and Rahul Dravid and Virender Sehwag, Virender Sehwag is an absolute nightmare, were too good for me. So, so that's how I went about the process. Yeah. So hopefully that's right. Hey, we've got Gareth Batty there, and I think that's the real Gareth Batty, the right arm off spinner from England. He came on. We'll just take this question here from him. With all these T20 leagues cropping up and the PSL starting in 3 days, which T20 leagues do you enjoy most outside of the IPL? I love the SA T20. Guru, if you can actually answer that, because you're a fan, and you might see a lot more of these T20 leagues than me. What's your favourite T20?
I've been keeping a tap on this one, SC20 as well, and really like, the form. I mean, the format is more or less the same, but the kind of cricket they brought onto the table, it was really nice, fun to watch. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Sunrisers, the Aaron Markram team has won it twice now, like back to back, right? So it was a good fun, and to see that, and I think it's important for South African cricket as well, and that's where I think leagues are doing a great job to keep up the taking care of the finances for the cricketers, so that like it goes hand in hand, right? I mean, you have to look at the family as well. So finances is one thing, then your passion and love for the game is other thing. If you can find the right balance for both these things, then it's like help, things made in heaven for you. I mean, it's like blessing from up above, right? So I think these leagues are somewhat helping the cricketers a lot, especially because it's not possible for everyone to play in the playing 11, right? You have 11 team members only, and with these leagues, at least you can get picked into the separate teams, and in that perspective, these leagues are wonderful. And when it comes to answering this question, I mean, big fan of IPL, BBL as well. I follow Big Bash League as well. But I mean, off late, I have not seen, I think in last season, I have not seen for Big Bash League. But South African 20 League I followed, and I liked much of it.
Yep. I actually like the... a beautiful answer, that one, South Africa League, and that's probably more in your time zone as well throughout the day. But I also like the English 100. I think that's a good change just for English cricket, and I think it's really hit a market over there. Big Bash PSL I love, but I really haven't followed the SAT20 League. Var Wars there has also asked, are the Windies a dark horse for the T20 World Cup this year after this Australian tour? I think they are, as I said, out the start of the game. But there's a point there with families that you brought up with the T20 saga. And I'll go back to the question that you asked out the start with youngsters wanting to pursue cricket. If you get the opportunity to follow your passion and you're able to make money out of it, I think you're living the best life that you possibly can.
Certainly,
and I'm listening to a podcast. There's a guy, Robert Greene, that wrote a book, Mastery, and he talks about that. So when you're a youngster, you've got all this excitement in your life, and you've got the you find your interests and what you're not interested in there, and those interests that you've got as a youngster, if you can slowly push them into a life where you can follow that excitement, all of a sudden that becomes a passion. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean cricket's my passion, or I love cricket out the start of my life, I'm going to make it to cricket. It might be I love cricket, but I'm not as good at cricket as a top level cricketer. But I might go into physio or something like that, where I might be able to be part of a sports team. So that's what it's talking about. You might love maths, so you might go into accounting or engineering or even IT. So I just wanted to get back to that point because that was something that I missed out at the start there. But the other thing is too, families. I think that's one thing that if you're going to be a cricketer, you're going to travel a lot. And that's with most sportsmen. So you're going to be away from your family a lot. So choosing your life partner, that's your wife or husband, is very important. You've got to make sure that you get that right straight away. And we all go through that moment when we meet someone for new. You get that lust, you get that excitement, and all those things that are negative about the other person seems to disappear because you're just in this wilderness. You've got that dopamine hit as such, but you've really got to sit down and go, right, just find or ask little questions to that particular person to make sure that everything's in sync. Because if you get that wrong, it can really cause trouble when you pursue your career. And my first marriage,
it as well. It can affect your cricket as well.
And my first marriage was very much like that. And I'm not blaming my ex-wife for that. It was the career that I chose, and we weren't the perfect match. So it was my fault, not her fault, because I didn't balance my life out as such, where or I didn't really have that understanding of what I needed in a partner to be able to make sure that I pursue what I needed to pursue, but also to make sure that I follow the interest of her as well, and encourage her in what she wants to go. It's a bit like the NRL, the American football player that just won the Cup with Taylor Swift. There's a big comment there where they're supporting each other. So that's a partner that cricketers have got to find when they move forward.
It's great that you brought in this point, actually. I mean, be it any profession, picking up the right partner is utmost important, because you are going to spend the rest of your life. And if those things are sorted well, you'll do great in every aspect of the life, be it profession, personal, and especially for the sports person, because he or she might be traveling more often than not, right? So it's utmost important to take that right step, basically, with the right person.
Exactly right. And I think Glenn Maxwell, if you look at Glenn Maxwell's career,
it has peaked. It has peaked actually after he got married, if I may put it like that. Of course, there are efforts by him, of course, but to get that mental balance, most probably, at times it is needed. And maybe it's the other person who can bring that perspective to you. Even Virat Kohli, for that matter, right? I mean, look at his interviews, right? He gave a lot of credit to Anushka Sharma, like the changes that she has brought into his lifestyle and things. So, and I mean,
it's the same with David Warner as well. But I think if you look at David Warner and Virat Kohli especially, they live the life that they want. When I say they live the life that they want, they're not really influenced by other people as such. There's guidance there, but they use that wisdom from other people to guide them in the right direction. They'll say, right, this is useful for me. This is not useful for me because it's not really getting me to my path. So it's about making sure that the influences outside with you moving forward with what you want to do, you actually feel it and you actually own it. So when someone gives you a bit of advice, it's got to turn around that you actually own that bit of advice and you go, right, that's going to help me to get where I want to go. So it's interesting that. So a good point there, and I'm glad I brought that question up because it took me back to that point out the start. Now, have you got another question there, mate?
Me, I do have. So I mean, I just wanted to touch upon, like often in cricket we discuss about batters injury, bowlers injury, particularly fast bowlers injury, but you never get into the spin bowlers injury, right? Injury department. And you being the spinner yourself, right? I would like to know from you if you had any injuries in your professional career, and how does it impact a spinner? Because when even now, right, if you don't, I mean, it's in a jokingly way, if you don't do anything, you can still bowl off spin, right? They say, okay, come hop on, just bowl a off spin for me. So it's like, they take it very lightly, but there is a lot of method and science goes into it, if I may put it in Ashwin's word, right? I mean, it is very difficult art to master. Actually, spin is not that easy, right? So, and when it comes to injuries, right, certainly it will affect the bowlers, right? So how does it impact the spin bowler, and what type of injuries any spinners can have, basically, just to name a few, basically?
Yeah, well, I had a knee problem, but I also did my shoulder here, the left shoulder. If I can get in the camera there, the left shoulder up there. It's more the bicep than anything else, and I'm actually got a bit of a problem with it now. I went down to the nets, and I hadn't thrown a ball for about 6 months. When I say throwing a ball, throwing it hard, and the ball came, and I was just watching these kids play, and I was running between the wickets. I picked it up and just automatically tried to throw the stumps down, and I hadn't done that for about a year and a half, where I've really thrown the ball hard, and it redid the injury that I had back in 2008. So little things like that, but that happened in 2008. The shoulder and my knee. I've had problems with my knee for probably 5 years. The last ball I bowled in the Big Bash out the whacker here, it went for 13. So I'll go through it. I was bowling to Ashton Turner. I was playing for the Renegades, bowling against my old team, Perth Scorchers. Ashton Turner's facing. I've looked out the scoreboard. I think I had about none for 21 off 3.5 overs. I thought, right, I get hit for 6 here. I'm right. I get out of the night pretty well. You shouldn't be thinking like that, by the way. And the next ball, I come in, and my left knee, there's a little bit of cartilage there, and every now and then it locks, and it just locked as I got up to about here, and it caused me just to jump a little bit, and I overstepped the mark. Ashton Turner hit it for 6, and then no ball, and the next ball went for 6, so 13 off the last ball. So the little knee injury there caused a few problems in the latter half of my career. But other than that, I was very lucky. I really looked after my body. And I think it's fast bowlers that really have more problems than spin bowlers. And I think if we look as the game of cricket moves forward with the 3 different formats, fast bowlers are like gold. And India right now, they're doing what Australia's doing. We just saw Australia here have 3 fast bowlers that probably aren't going to play in the front line 11 in the T20 World Cup. The other fast bowlers have been rested, and they're going to be playing IPL cricket. So you've got Boomerang, Siraj, Shami. You've got to make sure you monitor them. And that's why we're seeing so much rotation of fast bowlers, because it's very difficult to keep them on the park as they go from endurance, where they bowl a lot of overs, to short, fast spells. So Boomer in a test match is trying to get the ball to move and bowl within himself, and every now and then he'll try and let one rip. But in T20 cricket, he'll be trying to bowl as fast as he can for the majority of that time. It's a bit like, I'll go back to the 2003 World Cup with Brett Lee. Brett Lee's one of those bowlers that's going to be bowling 140 plus consistently, but he can get up to 150, 160 as we saw. But he'd planned, I think it was 6 months to a year out with a fitness consultant to be ready to bowl the fastest ball he possibly can by the time Australia get to the final series in that 2003 World Cup in South Africa. So there's a lot of build-up for Brett Lee to be able to do that, and he achieved it. But if he was playing T20 cricket through that time as well, that would have broken up that preparedness for that 50 over moment. So it's a lot tougher on fast bowlers and fitness consultants, and that's why I think if you're playing first-class cricket as a fast bowler, sometimes it's good to have your very own fitness consultant that you trust, and get programs from him as you jump from different T20 teams, and just keep the same program. Otherwise, when you jump from from team to team, your program changes, and all of a sudden you get out of sync, and you're not going to be right for that big occasion that you're looking for. So let's say India, the T20 World Cup's coming around. You want all your Indian players to be fresh for that T20 World Cup. You've got an
That's true.
IPL out that
Oh my
time.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
There's
So
very little window, basically. Yeah.
yeah. So you got to make sure that your fast bowlers, especially, are preparing correctly to be in their ideal peak for that T20 World Cup. And that's what Australia's doing. We've got T20 World Cup. We've got a 50 over World Cup. We want to make sure our players are fresh and ready for those World Cups. If we lose these bilateral series that we're having, we don't care about that, because that's the big moment. And that's what international teams should be thinking about, preparing for the bodies to get to there. Yeah. Another question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I would like to pick one question out of this discussion only, and you know, and it's example of Pat Cummins. He has been
Yep.
doing wonders for Australian cricket in last 1 year or so, and since he has become a captain, right? Now for Australian board, right, it must have been a really tough decision because he's the premier fast bowler, and now when you become a captain, you can't be rested, right? You can't take you have to play basically, right? So
Yep.
I mean, how you're going to manage the workload for this guy who's your premier bowler as well as your captain, right? So
Yep.
it becomes a very, and does it in longer run, right? Is it going to impact the career number of years that he or she can play? And if you are referring to Pat Cummins example, then that he can play number of years he can serve the Australian cricket, is it going to impact that, or is it because Pat Cummins is your line length bowler who just come in, bowl tight line and length, gets the extract most from the wicket and or pitch for that matter. So what would have been thought process, and what was your reaction to that when he was picked as a captain across format, basically?
Yeah, look, I was a little surprised when he was picked as captain, simply because he's the bowler and he's the premier
Yeah,
bowler, and
yeah,
there's so much riding on him, and they wanted him to be captain in all three formats now.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Mitchell Marsh has been captaining the T20 team. There is talk that he's going to continue
Yeah.
that role,
Mhm.
which will be good, because T20 games, that's the ideal period to rest Pat
Get some
Cummins,
rest.
especially that
Yeah.
he's playing the IPL.
IPL as well. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think when you go through that Australian lineup, it's, and when I say this, it's not a negative to Steve Smith or David Warner or players like that, because players are put under pressure, as we spoke to before, and there's a number of players from different countries around the world that's been put under pressure, and they've done something wrong on the field.
Yeah.
And going back to Steve Smith, the captain, I think would have created a little bit more negativity that we didn't need around that Australian cricket team from the fans, and also you've got to think about sponsors too. What are sponsors
Correct.
thinking of your
Yeah.
cricket team? So Pat Cummins at that stage was the picture boy of Australian cricket. He's mature, and they would have sat down and said, right, how are we going to plan this? And they would have said, right, we're going to concentrate on Test cricket. That's where we want you to captain most. We can chop and change in the white ball formats. We can get someone else to fill in for you there. Adam Gilchrist did that for Ricky Ponting a number of times.
Yeah.
So it's more on the Test arena to make sure he was going to be available for a 5-test series that you play against England and India now. That was going to be the big question mark. And I think they've delivered on that right now. And I think Pat Cummins has done a fantastic job, and he's gone through a time where they got rid of Justin
all the
Langer.
boxes. Yeah,
Yeah,
sticking all the boxes, all the trophies in the cabinet.
yeah. Well, ticking the boxes. When you say ticking the boxes, he's making the right achievements, and the achievements is the way that the Australians are conducting themselves on the field.
Yes, that's true.
And the way that they're playing. They're not as aggressive as we used to be. And when I say aggressive, like I used to chat on the field as well, and sometimes it would be aggressive. And when I was aggressive, it didn't work out well for me. But when I was having fun, having a little bit of banter, if you're facing me, and let's say you're Gautam Gambhir, and you've played a cover drive, I'll be going. If I was saying something like, "Oh, that's a good cover drive," but I didn't get it quite turn as much. The next one's going to turn a little bit more. I was sucked in here. If I banter like that, that's fine. But if I get into Gautam Gambhir, for instance, and get personal, and have a crack at him on a personal nature, it's not doing me any good, and it affects my game. And Australia have really backed off on that. They only do it at certain times if there's a character on the opposition that they think it will upset and just change the advantage. But other than that, they're playing within the spirit, and they're playing with a better spirit of cricket right now, which I'm very happy with. So that's probably why Pat Cummins is the leader of the team. You look at Mitchell Marsh. There was a run out the other night, 2 games ago, where they didn't appeal.
They didn't appeal. Yeah.
And we had a couple of the Australians run in, and I'll put my hand up. If I was playing in the Australian team at that time, when I was a lot younger, I might have run in like Tim David and said, "Look, I'll appeal from out there," and made a scene of it. Whereas, Mitchell Marsh just sat there and said, "Hang on, boys, calm down."
Yeah.
The umpire's made his decision, and he said no one appealed. He didn't hear anyone appeal, and because he didn't hear anyone appeal, he can't give it out. So Mitchell Marsh handled that really well. So I think
that's true.
Pat Cummins and Mitchell Marsh are ideal leaders of the Australian cricket team right now. So that's a great comment that you've just brought up. It's when you say tick the boxes, tick the boxes is probably a thing that I don't like anymore. I prefer to see what's the improvement. Is the team improving? And for me, the Australian team is improving in the right way. I'm not looking at the wins. I'm looking at their behaviour on and off the field.
Correct. I mean, I think that's really. I mean, to put things in perspective, we were. If you go back in 90s, right? How on-field behavior was back then, and now it has mellowed down. The sledging has come down, but I don't see aggression coming down, because I still see that in line and length of the bowlers, right? When Australians were bowling to Pujara, Pant in that Allen Border series that happened last time, right? In Down Under in Australia, right? So that was some serious stuff, some serious aggressive bowling coming from the other end, right? And but there was not much said to him, basically, right? Which wasn't the case maybe 20 years or 25 years back then, right? So I mean, cricket has changed, and in a good way, basically, right? In a good way, it has changed.
Yeah, exactly right. But you want that aggression. You still want the fast bowler to be really testing you as a player, but it's more about what's being said and how it's being said. You make a little comment out in the middle where you're trying to upset the batsman's mind, but it's not as personal as it used to be. It's a lot more. There's a little bit more creativity with it. I think Tim Payne and Ashwin back in the day at the SCG when India went up, they saved the Test match out Sydney and then went up to Queensland. When Tim Payne said to Ashwin, "We'll get you up there in Queensland," that's when you knew that Australia were on the back foot. And that's in the heat of the moment. Tim Payne might look at that and go, "Oh, I should have said something different." But those particular moments, you know that you've got the opposition on the back foot. You know that they're worried.
Yeah, and that was coming from the captain back then, right? Tim Payne was leading the side back then. So
Ricky Ponting, when he was fielding in close, he'd be a little chirpy too, but he'd be funny about it as well. But see, then you go back with Tim Payne and Pant. I think it was here in Perth. And Pant's come out to bat and he said, "Oh, you can babysit my kids tonight," or something like that. So that's a little bit of humour, and that's what we want to see in the team as well.
Yeah, that was a bit creative from Pant, actually.
Yeah. So, are there any Aria? Are there any other questions that we want to answer from other people? And Gaurav can put his voice to it as well. Thanks very much for that. Now, Raghuvanshi.
Yeah,
is that right?
Raghuvanshi. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And Jitendra.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you got it
Chategma.
right. It's spot
Right.
on.
You beauty. You beauty. I was commentating with Shivarama Krishnan, and I mentioned this last night. Hoggy, sometimes you get the Indian names right. I can't understand it. So, mate, I've only got 3 letters to my name. You've got the whole alphabet to
Yeah,
yours.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll
Good,
probably
that's
bring that
good.
up a lot. But Shiva, he is a fantastic human being, Shiva Ramakrishnan. Love him. Sir of Solanki, you're back again. Sir, thanks very much for joining us again. Sir, why Australian team doesn't pick Class Lynn or Chris Lynn, I think that's meant to
Christening,
be,
yeah,
in
yeah,
the team?
yeah.
Yep. Don't you think Australia hasn't done justice with the talent of Lynn? Now, Surav, actually, I'm going to go to you, Gurav, so I don't influence
Mhm.
your answer to that. What do you think about this? Because this will give you a bit of dynamic of how a fan sees it and how you see it
Mhm.
internally.
I think, I mean, that's true that Chris Lynn has been one of the finest hitter of the ball when it comes to white ball cricket, right? I have not followed him much how he has done in the domestic cricket, to be honest, in back in Australia. But I've seen him Big Bash League, and he used to hit the ball pretty long. I mean, right?
Yeah.
And when you pick someone in the side, you see how he will do across the globe, right? When we'll be traveling outside Australia also, right? So when Chrislin was picked in IPL, right, we had high hopes, basically, to be honest. We were
Mm.
expecting the same what he has done in Big Bash League. But if I put things, honestly, I didn't see the same punch coming from Chris Lane, and probably that might have played a role. I know it's good to. It's a lot easier to score runs in your backyard because you know the condition, you know the people, right, and you have at domestic level also you have played some matches in the same venue, right? So that helps. But when it comes to traveling, you need. I mean, a player is just how good a traveler that is, right? That person is basically how good he does outside a neutral venue, outside the country or neutral venue, right? So maybe that played a part in this decision. I mean, to just to add 2 cents from my side.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right, and it's something I was at a chat the other night, and someone defined entrepreneurship. So being an entrepreneur, it's not about your business or anything like that. It's about improving your business. So when
Yeah, that's
it's and that doesn't mean extra profit. That doesn't mean extra product. It might mean customer service. So when you're a cricketer, you're virtually an entrepreneur. You're improving yourself. And when Chris had his opportunity to play in IPL, and I don't mean this to be hard on Chris, and it's not a negative to Chris because he's a great teammate, and I really enjoy his company. And there's opportunities there that he could have played for Australia a lot more, but he chose the T20 route before the first class route, and he did that before Tim David, and that's probably why Tim
Mhm.
David's getting more opportunity than what Chris Lynn is, because
Okay.
the Australian mindset of the selectors has changed, right? We've got to accept this type of player now. So that's one factor. But the other thing is with Chris Lynn, while he was out KKR with me, he was struggling against spin out the time. So
Yeah,
he'd spend the most of his time in the nets against fast bowlers or throwdowns trying to hit it as big as
yeah,
he possibly could. But his downfall was spin. Right.
yeah,
Okay, get in the spin nets, because out Kolkata, if everyone can understand Kolkata, you've got 2 net blocks just before the
yeah,
change rooms there, and they were in both were on operation where you had fast bowlers on one side, spin nets on the other side. So you could sit there against spin for an hour and a half and just face it. And Chris Lynn had those opportunities, but he didn't take that opportunity. And this is about growth. So,
yeah,
right, I'm struggling against spin. Win those middle overs. I've got to try and get off strike. I've got to find a way just to get the ones. All of a sudden, you get confident and you're setting yourself up for the back end of the back end overs against the pace. But as you get more confident, just getting the ones, and then you're working on it in the nets, then all of a sudden, that sweep shot where you go for one, or that push down the ground where you go for one, all of a sudden, you start to get a little more confident where you can hit the ball harder, then a little
yeah,
harder, then all of a sudden you go over the
mm,
top, and all of a
yeah,
sudden you're starting to hit the sixes against the spin on those tough conditions. And Chris didn't really go through that process at that
Mhm.
time, and I think he probably wasted 2 years of his career and didn't take that opportunity to improve against that little weakness out KKR. So that's something that you've got to look out, and that's the same with you and your IT business.
That's true. That's true.
You've got your core products. You've got your products for a certain class and other products for another class of income earners. But as time goes by, where we've got inflation and all that, and I learned this from a business guy the other day. You try and make sure that one of those products is going to service you at those different times on the economic cycle.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's very much that are lessons that you learn from cricket, which is quite surprising when you put different aspects of your life together. So yeah. Gee whiz, we're turning this into a business education vlog. And that, I don't mind sharing those lessons that I've learned from other people as well here that have just come across from general conversation. Is there another question there, Arya or Gaurav? VAR Wars. I wanted to get back to this one. Are the Windies a dark horse for the T20 World Cup this year after this Australian tour? What do you think, Gaurav?
No, you can never rule out Windies in T20. They are giants in this format of the game. I mean, you look at their bowling department. They are, when it comes to T20, right? A fast bowler need to just burst a spell of 4 overs, right? And a batter can change the game in a span of an over, and which Windies can do pretty easily actually. I mean that side is full of such players who can change the course of the game in an over basically. So I don't rule out them at all when it comes to T20 cricket. So yeah, certainly. I don't think they are dark horse. They're in contention to be honest.
Well, they're definitely in contention. The only issue I've probably got for them, what I saw at Optus the other night, was getting the top 3 right. I think Chase could probably go up the order and open the batting. Number 3 at least. I thought he looked the goods, and he also offers a little bit of off spin. And I just think they've got to get their bowling combinations right. And I think they've got to understand they've probably got to have a better defensive game when it comes to the ball. That's probably the key ingredient that they've got to improve on now, because their strength was finding boundaries more regularly than other teams. And that goes probably back 3 or 4 years ago. But now other teams have caught up in that particular area. So that advantage is gone. So now they've probably got to work on their defensive game. So that's probably where I see them now. But that Roston Chase, I love him. But they've also got Sharma Joseph coming in.
Well,
yeah.
He's been brilliant. I mean, what a story. Yeah.
Yeah, what a story. And he's getting that IPL gig.
I think
with that, do you think that is a bold move from it's Lucknow he's gone to, isn't it? That he's replaced Wood. And Gujarat have picked up Johnson. So both teams that were in the top 4 last year have picked up inexperienced bowlers. Do you think that's a big risk going into the IPL? Because I do.
I think before IPL, right? And I think it's a long tournament, right? So you get to play before even IPL start. You get to get along with the team a lot, and I think that'll help both these guys to settle down. And I think like how these 2 guys have performed on international level, right? They just adopted like fish to water, right? They had no problems in performing on the international stage. I mean, look at Shima Joseph, the spell that he bowled on the last, I think 10 to 12 overs on the trot, right? If I'm not mistaken. And that too against mighty Australians, and then in their backyard, pink ball, and he got everything spot on. So I think he's got a very good head on the shoulders. So he's pretty sorted, and I think he'll do well for LSG. I mean,
right.
Just keeping injuries aside, if he's not injured, fully fit, he'll do well.
Yeah. Well, it's his big toe. He's got to learn to get the big toe out of a reverse swinging Yorker. So, but it's a wonderful story. Now, I've just got Art of Legend 26 there saying, are you going to do videos and thoughts on the T20 World Cup later on this year? Yes, we will be doing that. And I'm looking forward to the T20 World Cup and also looking forward to the IPL. With the IPL, we're going to be doing a lot more videos like this throughout there. So if there's a couple of games there, we'll get fans from different regions, hopefully. That will join us. We've got 2 RCB fans so far in Austin and Guruv that have joined us. So looking forward to that. Right, we'll just it's coming up just past the hour now. I just want to ask you one question. What's one change do you to cricket do you think that we can make as it is now?
You're asking across format or maybe
anything to do with cricket? What's one thing that you think can improve the game? Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah.
I mean, I was not expecting, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a good one. So basically, right. So I think we are on the right track when it comes to Test cricket. Just enjoying what is coming on the table when it comes to Test cricket, be it baseball, be it conventional cricket form of cricket. Just loving it totally. But when it comes to ODI, right, and even the T20 has found the sweet spot in last couple of years. It's going good within leagues and international cricket as well. But when it comes to ODI cricket, right, there's a lull moment in between 21st to 40th over, right? Not much is happening. And I feel taking out reverse swing, out of ODI was not good actually, because that shifted the balance more towards the batters basically. And I'm not a professional to comment, but I see that there's a dip in batting skill also when it comes to playing reverse swing, right? Back in 90s, we even used to play ODI cricket with red ball, right? I remember those days, right? And then when it comes to white ball later on, there was reverse swing happening with the white ball. So that aspect, if we can bring in favor of bowlers more, I think I would like to see that, because for me personally, I'm a big bowler fan. I mean, I love Wasim Akram, Waqar Yunus from 90s, McGrath, Ambrose, Walsh, right? These were my favorite cricketers. And when it goes past your nose, especially in Test cricket, I used to just love those moments. I know batters wouldn't, but I used to just love those moments actually.
Not when you've got a big nose like this.
Smell the leather, as they say, right? So yeah, I mean, it was great fun to watch. So I would like to see more in that perspective, basically, to just add 2 cents from my side.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's one aspect that we should be trying to encourage in one-day international cricket. Probably more so when around about the 35th over. I like it. I like it with spin trying to dominate in that those middle overs. But the game's changed as well. The other thing I looking at that, you brought up one-day international cricket. I know this would be difficult for the umpire and for fans to follow, but you know how you have 10 overs in the final power play, the last 10 overs where you can have 5 fielders out. I'd like that to change, where you can have those 10 overs after the first 10 overs, but you can use those overs sparingly at any stage throughout the game.
In batches also you can use those,
Yeah. So on the 15th over, I want to bring the spinner on. Batsmen are going well, but I need 5 fielders out just to give him a bit more protection, and basically that will change up the framework of the batters as well. But also, if it's a flat wicket, you can say, right, the quick bowlers are doing really well here. I've got 10 overs of spin. I can use those extra 5 fielders for my spinners, and put more pressure on the fast bowlers. But then the reverse, when it's spinning, you use it for your fast bowlers. So that's probably one aspect that I'd like. Now we'll just finish off with the Test match between India and England tomorrow. There's talk that it's going to be a flat wicket out Rajkot.
Yeah.
And in the last vlog, someone was saying that Roots and Crowley played some expansive shots. They shouldn't have got out to those particular shots. But now looking at the stats, the false shot percentage is better for England than India. And England are playing a more aggressive game. So you'd expect more false shots from England. So if it's a flat wicket, I think the advantage could go to England in Rajkot. What do you think?
I think, to be honest, I think it could be other way, because if what I have seen, Indian batters, especially, right, especially the new crop that has come up, they aren't that good when it comes to playing a spin. So if they get a flat wicket, they can take advantage of it actually better in a better. And of course, England are going to play aggressive style of cricket as they have been playing since McCullum and Stokes have taken over, right? But it will give us our batters, Indians, better and extra edge, because they kind of struggle when it comes to spin. I've seen that, spinning tracks, and that's also one of the reason why Indians are not putting, even though they are playing in their backyard, they are not putting huge totals on the board, right? Like it used to happen earlier back, right? When Sachin, Dravid, Lakshman, they used to bat for a day. And I don't see that happening. I mean, of course, Virat can do that. Pujara, who's not in the side, has done that in past. But from the young crop, don't see that happening that often, right? So I think if it's a flat wicket, it might work more in the favor of Indians than English. And let's see if the flat wicket can hold up to it till the fourth and the fifth day, basically. Let's see. I mean, that how quickly it cracks, basically. That is also one thing that will bring a lot of options to me.
If it's a flat wicket, I'd like to see Siraj play if he's fit, because I just think he's just got that oomph. He's got that fight, and he's probably a bit like a Ben Stokes in a sense that he wants to be in the contest when he's got the ball in hand. So, I do agree with you in that sense that the advantage would go to India if it's a flat wicket. I can't disagree with you. I just think the way that England play, and if they can keep being on top of the Indian spinners, and Boomer doesn't have as much impact, that's where England will take it ahead. What's your playing 11 for both teams tomorrow? All right, let me try and get that up. Guruv, you can start there. I think Pottercole is going to come in for Iyer. I'd like to see Jadeja play, but I don't think they should risk him. I think the only change that I'd make is Pottercole coming in for Shreyas Iyer. Just to add a different left hander. I'd like to give Mukesh another go. What about you?
I think I mean, for that reason, Pottercole offers left hand, right? So you get a lefty in the middle order, and that kind of upsets the rhythm of the bowler when you have a lefty and a right-handed batsman in the middle, right? But I followed Sarfaraz, and he has done some wonderful. Like, he's been on a run spree in last 2-3 seasons, and it would be a bit hard on him if he's not picked up, in this series. That's what I feel. This guy deserves a chance, and because he has done consistently well enough in last 2-3 years, and I see that he has played long innings, and probably that's what you need, right? To someone to bat long in Test cricket. So you see what Ollie Pop did in first match, right? That inning changed the game, right? Yashasvi changed the game with his 200. Of course, there was Bumrah who did what he only could do, basically, right? But you need these long innings in the middle, and that's where they kind of decide the match, basically. So you need.
Do you think he can handle Wood?
Yeah, I think he can. He has played. I mean, of course, white ball and red ball is different ball game altogether. But I think he should be able to tackle. Yeah.
Rightio. Okay. You've just changed my mind. Pottercole. You're going to have to wait a little longer and get Sarfaraz Khan in that lineup.
Yeah, but purely for the reason that he has done really well. I mean, over the years, and he deserves a chance.
We'll just go through England quickly. Do you think they'll make any changes, or who would they have to remove to bring Wood in and keep Anderson bowling if they want to go with 2 quicks? Would it be Ahmed?
Ahmed, I would like to see him because he's leg spinner and he bats well down. I mean, I know that he's someone who can hang in there, right? If in case needed, right? So I would still pick Ahmed. I forgot the name of the office spinner. The tall spinner.
Bashir would have to go because they've got the right arm off spin of Leach. The only worry for me with Hartley, if the wicket's flat, just his consistent line and length. He's got the height, but I just think when it's a little flatter, he might not be able to control the run rate as well as what we've seen. He's been the bowler of the tournament, but remember he got 7 wickets in that one innings. He's been the difference between the spinners. And if it's a flat wicket and England could take Boomer out of the equation, that's where I think England will have the advantage. But there's a chance that it might be a turning wicket as well. Let's see what we get out, Raj.
Yeah.
But I think whoever bats first is going to win this Test match.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yes.
Right. Gaurav, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks.
It has been something special. Thanks for everyone else that's joined on the side as well. Thanks for the comments. We'll go through some of the questions that we didn't answer there, and we'll bring that up on the next live as well. Some of those questions we might even answer during the week as well. So thanks very much for joining us. Let's enjoy the Test match that's going on, and let's get ready for New Zealand taking on Australia in a couple of weeks' time down there in New Zealand. That's going to be a cracker as well. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Gaurav. See you later. Hoggy out.
See you. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.